Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Breakaway solo gaming stream. I'm very excited tonight to be able to play for you what is rapidly becoming one of my favorite solo play board games. It's actually just good in general. Hopefully, we'll get a group stream of this weekend. But I've played it a couple of times solo, so this is our box is very heavy. Scythe by Stonemaier Games. Um, just recently managed to grab a copy of this. I sadly missed out on the Kickstarter, and the first retail run sold out too quickly for me to grab one last time. But I finally got my hands on one. I'm quite pleased with it so far, except I'm really looking for the board extension that hopefully will be reprinted soon. Let's jump right in here, show you what we got from an overhead. Uh, so this game basically is a an alternate timeline post World War One, where World War One was won using steam powered mech type uh, mech type devices. So here's the mech type devices for the faction I've decided to play, which is the Nordic Kingdoms. They're sort of like boats with legs and a tank cannon on top of them. And here are the ones from the faction that I'm playing against, which is the Crimean Khanate, which would be Ukrainian uh, type peoples. You notice this sort of the agrarian structure of the tractor with a tank gun on it. And the factory which constructed these war machines, which is right here, basically had a country around it that it exploited for that purpose. And once the war ended, this entire land was just abandoned. So now 7 factions, well, 5 in the base game and additional 2 with the Invaders from Afar expansion, although their icons are present right on the board, are trying to vie for control of this area. So as I said, I've got the Nordic kingdoms, essentially Scandinavia, and we have the Crimean Khanate, which is basically the Ukraine, and then we also have what is basically Poland, Germany, Russia in the base set, and we also have Japan and Scotland in the expansion. Um, so right now I'm playing as the Nordic kingdoms. There's home bases up here. This is what my main character looks like. All of the characters that you're playing in the game all have animal companions. This one has a giant ox, and Zira, who is so that was Bjorn, obviously, and this is Zira from the from the Ukrainian uh, faction, and she's got a what looks to be a falcon or an eagle with her as her animal companion. The way this works is, if you go and see, if you look at close-up cam here, I have your faction board, which gives you some of the details, but each you randomly assigned an action board which has a theme to it. I got the engineering faction, and there are 4 different actions that can be taken on the board, and each turn I'm going to choose one of these actions. And by default, by default, you can only choose the same. You can only choose a different action. So I can't do, for example, move 2 turns in a row. I have to choose something else. So we have produce, trade, bolster, and move. And then there's a bottom half action, which is upgrade, deploy, build, and enlist. And the order that these are on the cards are different for each category. So if I had a different one, then the top actions would be in a different order, but the bottom ones are all the same. So in a multiplayer game, you'd actually be potentially sharing these actions, or there would be a bonus for these actions for the person to the left and right of you. In a single player game, that doesn't really happen, but I still have the top and bottom actions that I need to do every single turn. I'm going to probably do all of them over the course of the game. So I'm not going to explain them outright. I'll just explain what I'm doing when we get to them. So I've also got 5 monies or gold here in different denominations. Um, I have my 4 mechs, which are currently on my board. I haven't built them yet or deployed them yet. That'll be one of the actions to take. Basically, my goal is to get my 6 stars out, and these get out by accomplishing particular goals, which are indicated on the board up here. So having all 6 of my upgrades, having all 4 of my mechs out, building all 4 of my buildings, things like this will allow me to put a star in this tracker. And once all 6 are out, the game is done, and then we calculate scores. Whoever has the most money out of me and the AI player is the one that wins at the end. So we'll calculate scores. We'll see how that works when we get to the end. We'll tallying a whole bunch of money, and then we'll see who has the most at that point. So I'm just going to get right into it, and then we'll start talking about the individual things that are happening as we go along and how the AI player works as well. The other thing I want to mention before I get started is this setup. The first time I set this up, it took the better part of a half hour to 45 minutes. And then I went and bought the broken token insert for Scythe and hit save. It took about 10 minutes to set this whole thing up. The lovely trays for everything, and it slides all right into the box perfectly. It's amazing. If you've got Scythe and you want to play it more frequently, but the setup is super fiddly, I highly recommend getting the broken token solution for this. I really enjoyed setting up tonight compared to the 2 other times. So, well, taking a look at the board and the action. So, actually, before I get started, well, how exactly what I'm planning to do here. You get these 2. In my case, I get because of the what's on my starting information here for my actions is I got 2 objective cards, and I kind of want to try to get one of these done since they're fairly easy to do. But I can only choose to do one of them. So I have 2, which the first one is called Roll Up Your Sleeves. Let's see if we can get that to focus here. It says have 2 money or less, have at least 4 workers, and at least 7 popularity. It's called Roll Up Your Sleeves with the Common Man. And then the other one is Technological Breakthrough. Have 1 factory card and 0 upgrades. So the upgrades are moving these cubes around to upgrade the tasks that you can do and reducing the cost of the bottom half. And the factory is when you get to the middle tile with your character, you get to draw one of these factory cards, which is basically an extra action. Is a technological upgrade. I think that it'd be very difficult. That it might be a little difficult for me to get to the factory quickly, because in order to do that, I'm not allowed to immediately cross rivers with my character. So we have a river running around my starting area. Everybody has one. Well, for the most part, everybody has one. I definitely have one. I can get because of my special faction ability. I can get my workers to cross rivers, but I can't get my characters to cross rivers until I deploy this mech. Deploying a mech will cost me 4 steel. In order to do that, it's going to take me a little while to do that. So that it is an option, but it'll slow me down considerably. The other option, have $2 or less, at least 4 workers and 7 popularity, is a slight bit easier to accomplish. So I'm going to try to go for that. And to start, I'm going to choose a move, which allows me to move 2 characters. Either move 2 characters, 1 space, or gain 1 gold. But I'm definitely going to use the move. In order to help increase my popularity, I'm going to go after these objective tokens, which are on the board, which give you an event that you can choose rewards from. So first, I'm going to move my worker across the river from the oil here over to this spot, which has a village, which, if I allow it to produces me a new worker. And then I am going to move my character down to this oil spot so I can get closer to the objective token. Now that was my top action, so I got to move 2 of my characters. I could now optionally take the bottom action, which would be to pay 3 food to enlist. Enlisting allows me to remove one of these 4 recruit tokens and place them on one of the bonuses that are up here, revealing a bonus that I could potentially get if my opponent takes a particular action. But I obviously don't have the food to do that, so that'll be the end of my turn. And now we're going to move on to the turn my opponent's turn. Who's using they're calling it the automata. It's actually based on an entirely different development team from the Automata Factory as the ones who designed it. Very similar to some of the other Stonemaier games automation. So I have a deck of cards here that I'm going to take a card off of, and it's going to tell me what actions my opponent is going to take. So here's the card. Up in the upper right-hand corner, up here. So there are two sides to it. The bottom side we're going to use on the second half of the game once we reach a certain spot. But the actions are listed up at the top here. Basically, what these characters are going to do. So the movement is a little complicated. It takes a bit to understand, but the first icon says basically that I'm going to move the opponent's character toward the nearest, either to the factory spot or the nearest objective marker. And if there is none, then I would then move a mech. So we can do that. So we're going to take that action first. So we move the opponent's character over to this space that has an objective token, and we are going to remove the objective token. So as if they had actually completed that, but without actually doing the objective side. They never do the objectives. Next, they gain the opponent gains something. So first, there we have a symbol in brackets that's if you match that, if your opponent matched the faction, they would get that bonus. But because we are not playing as the Highlanders, we're playing as the Crimean Connaught. We skip this and we move up to the next, which is they get one worker and 1 gold. So we will go ahead and put a worker for them on their home base space. Unlike my workers, when I gain them, they go on the village space. Workers through the automation go on the home base and then move later. And then we're going to grab 1 gold and add it to their card. The last part of the card is right in the middle. There's a star symbol. So I have a track over here that I'm keeping track of all of the I'm keeping track of how many turns that the AI has taken. So every time we have a star symbol, we move. I have a cube that's tracking it. I move it up the track. Notice on the first 5 spaces, there's a no rivers icon. This means that the enemy cannot cross rivers for any reasons when we do movement. So they have to be stuck in their own home area until we move off of it. When we reach this symbol, this is when we switch from the top of the one side of the cards and we turn it over so it's the 2 side. And every time we hit a star, we take a star from their pile and we put it on next to the victory track. That similar to the 6 stars I need to put on. The AI also needs to do this, but this puts a timer on the game. So basically, that's many turns. So we've got 24 turns in order to beat the AI. So that star symbol means that I have to move the cube up 1 step. So I'm now on the second at the second step. So some cards will completely skip that part of of the AI. So in this case, we moved them up. So now it's my turn. Once again, I moved last turn, so I can't move again. I have to choose a different action. And this time I'm going to play Produce over here, which allows me to produce on all of the tiles in which I have workers. On 2 of the tiles on which I have workers. I can upgrade it so that it's 3, but right now it's just 2. So I've got 2 workers right now. I've got 1 on a wood space. In the woods, he will produce a wood, so I will go grab a wood token. These are the wooden tokens they've got. So wood is just this kind of uneven pentagon here. Then we also have little baskets of wheat for food. We've got steel, and then we also have oil barrels. So those are the icons that we'll be putting out there. So right now I just want wood. We put that on the board, and also a worker, because I was in the village and they produce. So the worker comes off the track on the card, and every time I remove one from the left, it reveals a space. There could be a cost associated to producing later on. So the more workers I have, the higher the cost could get to produce. So I place the worker in the same place as the village. So I produced on 2 tiles. Next, I can take the bottom half action, which would be to pay 3 oil to upgrade one of my actions. And I obviously don't have the 3 oil, but to upgrade, I basically would take 1 cube off of one of the actions up at the top, which would basically give me more. So, for example, with the move action, I could upgrade and remove this cube, which would allow me to move 3 units instead of just 2, sorry. And then I could take this cube and place it on any other bottom action, which would reduce the cost of it. So if I moved it over here, it would cost me only 2 barrels of oil in order to upgrade subsequent upgrades. So that would be beneficial, but unfortunately I can't do that. And then the instant I do that, I wouldn't be able to use this factory objective. So I wouldn't be able to upgrade at all. So I can't take the bottom action, but I have produced. So I have some wood, and I've got a new worker up on the board. So turns move very quickly once you get used to the way things work here. So right now we're going to move back to the automata. I'm going to draw another card, and here we've got. So we do have to take the action here. So normally they'll be on the level I'm playing. Some of the cards will have a symbol saying, "Don't play this one." So I'll just put it back in the discard pile. So what we have here is move a unit or character, or move a worker. Oh, sorry. Okay, move a worker off the home base, or just move a worker. The moving rules are really complicated for this. I'll get into it in just a second here. Then I would gain a worker, and then we would also have to move the star up. And I'm probably actually going to have to reread some of these movement rules here. And luckily, there is a card for every single. There's a card for every single symbol that you'll run into. Oh, I'm sorry, that first symbol was an attack move versus a worker, but which I don't have. So there's no a possible attack for a worker in range. So that's not going to happen. So the next one is to just basically move a worker. So the steps you have to determine first which worker is going to move, and it's the closest to the home base. In this case, we have a worker in the home base. He's going to move there. Then we see the which are the valid spaces that we can go onto. They have to be in the neighborhood of one of their pieces. So they have to be in a valid adjacent space next to one of the pieces. So right now, these 3 spaces are the only valid ones because the units cannot cross rivers. Otherwise, they can teleport wherever they want on the board, as long as it's within as long as it fits the criteria. So, for example, if this character was over here, there would actually be the ability to move the worker all the way across the board to over here. But again, we can't cross rivers. Then next, there's no enemy unit and there's no worker. So the only place to actually put a worker now is right here. So we move the worker. We gain a worker. They gain a worker, sorry. And we move the tracker up 1 notch to the next turn because the star was visible on that particular card. And now it's back to my turn. So now we've produced, I've got an extra worker out there. Once again, I want to move. So I'm going to move my character down here to this space. There is a encounter token here, so we're going to take care of that after we're done with the move. The second move is going to move this worker over here to this oil field. I'm going to need oil to get upgrades to make other things easier, or if I decide to potentially move one of my workers down into the steel area in order to help build steel to get my mechs out. But right now, I've finished my movement. I'm now on the encounter tab. We'll take the tile off. and I will draw an encounter card. This tells a little story through the picture. The artwork, by the way, is gorgeous. And then the choices you have to make are based entirely on the artwork that you see here. So we've got this. We've got a whole bunch of people on a beach, and there's a massive ship in the background. And let's see what it says. A ferry, a paddle boat, actually. Take a ride on the ferry as the wind tussles your long flowing hair. I suppose Bjorn does have long flowing hair. I don't, but trade with the caravan for a variety of goods, and pillage the traveler's wares at gunpoint. So the results that you get from this is if I take a ride on the ferry, um, I gain 2 popularity. If I trade with the caravan, I pay two coins to gain any 3 resources. Or I can pay 3 popularity to gain any 5 resources. So essentially, I'm paying the popularity because I'm being a dick to get more items, or I can legally trade to get some resources, or I can take a ride on the ferry and everyone will see how wonderful my hair is, I guess, and gain 2 popularity. Now it's tempting to take the popularity one because that's one of the options on my objective card is to get at least 7 popularity. But I can also increase my popularity by 2 if I upgrade my trade. If I can manage to upgrade my trade uh, action. So I'm leaning towards paying 2 and gaining 3 resources, which will allow me to basically be almost all the way at either pretty much all. I could pay for any one of the bottom row upgrades except for deployment. Um, sorry. Uh, so yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. Um, I'm going to pay 2 to gain 3 resources, and I'm going to pay them to get some more oil up. So 2, and I'm going to get 3 oil. So the next time I produce, I should be able to produce. Oh, sorry. Yes. So next time I will be able to. So I can put this on any tile I have a worker, but I'm just going to put it on the oil field. Done. So I got 3 oil there. So I can use when I pay resources, I can use them on any. I can use them from any tile that I have control over. But if I lose control, I can't use those resources. I can also use characters to move resources around, so that could be helpful, especially in a multiplayer game when you want to retreat. Now, I could use those resources to pay for the bottom half action, which is enlist in this case. But of course, I got 3 oil and not 3 food, so I can't use the enlist action. And that's the end of my turn. We move on to the automation's turn, to the opponent's turn. We'll just use opponent. So we turn over our AI card, and okay, I'm still doing this action, so this is very similar to the last one. Move the character over to an objective token, which we cannot do because can't cross a river right now. So there is no way to get to an objective token, or we move one of their, or we just move the character in general. In which case, let's see where would we end up moving. In reading order, so we would end up moving the character. Oops, sorry. So we're looking for, again, in the neighborhood of the character, of any opponent character. It has to be valid and the shortest distance from an enemy combat unit. There are no enemy combat units. Well, this is my the only enemy combat unit. And then the tiebreakers are closest to the factory, and all this tile and this tile are both closest to the factory, and then it's in reading order, so from left to right. So we would just end up moving the character here. And the next thing is we deploy the character or a So we're going to add a mech to the home base. That's what they've gained. And we get to move the star tracker up again. Now it is my turn again. So back to the actions. Now I have the ability to upgrade. Now again, I can't cross rivers with my units until I purchase a mech, which I really should have thought of earlier and gotten the steel, because now I can't move anywhere toward the factory or anywhere toward any other objective tokens. So let's move back over to produce. I produce on 2 tiles. So once again, I'm going to produce a worker. So now I have the 4 workers required by my roll up your sleeves with the common man. I will also produce, I have enough oil right now to do my upgrade. I'm probably going to produce a wood. So you get another wood token there. So those are the 2 I can produce on. And then I'm going to pay the 3 oil on this tile to perform an upgrade action. And since I need to get my popularity up higher, I'm going to take the trade action, and I need to reduce the cost of my mechs so I can get my river breaking upgrade. And I see where the upgrade as quickly as possible, so that'll make my mechs cost less. And I gain, for taking the upgrade action as well, I gain 2 coins. Oops. Tile. And that will be the end of my turn. And back to the automation. Again, an action I got to take. We are moving a worker. In this case, I cannot move the worker, so it stays on the home base. There can only be 1 worker per tile. So there are no valid hexes to move. So that's not happening. The next symbol is I increase the power of the faction by 2. So your power is used in combat. Both sides decide how much power they're putting towards it. There are also combat cards which can boost power, and then whoever has the most ends up winning the combat. The maximum that you can give is 7. We have a dial here to use for my combat, where I can select how much power I'm going to use. Don't really need to use it here in the single player game. So they've gained 2 power, and we've got a star. So we're going to have to bring up that track, and this is going to be the last turn where the enemy doesn't have to cross is not allowed to cross rivers. So I need to start stepping up here a little bit. I think I'm going to need to move again. Like I said, I need to get my steel up. So the next is going to be another move. So I'm going to select move. And the 2 units I'm going to move are a worker here, so I can start generating steel. And I'll move a worker over here, so I can start generating. So I've got somebody who can generate me some oil. I have no food to pay for an enlistment, so that'll be the end of my turn. Now we're back to the automation. And like I said, once you get it going, stuff moves very, very quickly. So in this case, once again, we're doing the action. Still haven't seen the. I really can't get the focus going here, but I haven't seen the action that skips it. So if I was playing the Poland faction, I would take that action, but otherwise, I just move a worker, which once again I cannot do. And now we have a special action that's finally happening. This is the symbol for the Crimean faction. So I do gain an extra coin, so they will gain 2. And we are moving the star block forward. So now on the next turn, they are going to be able to jump over rivers. So 2 coins. And we are back to my turn. Let's head to production. It's going to cost me 1 power now because I have cleared up enough of you can't see it from the angle where I've got close-up cam. Let's see if I can move this here without knocking everything over. But there's a cost symbol now. So I need to pay the cost of 1 power in order to do the produce action. So go ahead and do that. And then I get to produce on 2 tiles. Welcome to the channel, Pawnshop72. Hope you're having a good evening, wherever you are. Produce, I will produce on, I'm definitely going to produce steel on this territory here. And right now the mill could help me out significantly. The mill is one of the buildings that you can build that'll add production to a particular tile. And I'm going to need 3 wood in order to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off the wood production for that. So now I have 3 wood available for me to build a mill on the next turn. Sadly, again, now I can't use the bottom half action. I don't have enough oil in order to do that, so no more upgrades for the moment. And that ends my turn. So we will move on to the automation. And again, this time they get to cross the rivers, and I still don't get to. So, all right. Now we have, good. We got a card that for the first time. So again, the level of difficulty I'm working with. If this symbol appears, we skip this card entirely, and that's the faction's entire turn. So this just goes to the discard pile, and we move on to my next turn, which I will use to do the trade action. So it's the first time I do this. So instead of, I'm not going to do the, was it the trade action I wanted to do, or the bolster action? Yeah, let's start with the trade action. The trade action allows me to pay 1 coin, which I will do, and either gain 2 resources, or because of the upgrade, gain 2 popularity. I'm going to choose to gain 2 resources. I'm going to gain 2 iron, 2 steel. I'm just going to put them on the same territory. So that'll give me enough to build a mech. And that's the next action I'm going to take. On the bottom half is to actually deploy. So I have the 3 steel available. Because of the upgrade, it cost me 1 less. So I'm going to take the 3 steel that I have now off the board. And I'm going to choose the mech that has Seaworthy, which will allow us to cross rivers. And I'm going to place him in the same, it has to be in one place that has a worker, unlike the automation, which has to put them on the home base. I'm putting it right up here at this tile, so the next time it moves, it can move across the river. And once again, because I've removed this one, it gives me seaworthy, move to and from lake, and retreat onto to from lakes. Oh, sorry, not seaworthy. Sorry, that's lakes. I want riverwalk. I want to cross rivers. The other ability for that's unique to the Nordic Kingdom is the ability to use these lake tiles as if they were regular ones. Otherwise, you can't use them. So I built a mech with other types of cards here. That these coin rewards for using the bottom half action will change from faction to faction. So in this case, sorry, I'm trying to adjust the light here because the chroma key is messing up a little bit. Sorry about that. So the coin values change depending on what faction you have. So I don't gain anything for building one of my mechs here. So that's the end of my turn. I've produced the mech, so now we'll move on to the opponent's turn. So we do get to perform this action. We are moving a worker and then gaining 3 power and moving the star block up. So the worker who's closest to the base is the one that's on the base right now. The place that he would likely move is right here as a valid square. There are more automation. It's in the neighborhood of more units than any other. So in this case, 3 units instead of 2 or 1. So this is the location where we're going to drop the worker. I'll increase the power by 3. Oh, sorry, I had some music ready to go here. Let me go ahead and fix that up for you guys. Hopefully it's not too loud. Let me know if it is. Alrighty, so that was the end. Oh, right, we have to move the automation cube up 1. And now it is my turn. Now, finally, I can cross me some rivers with my own units. However, I don't think I'm going to move right away. I've got some other things that I might be able to do first. So I'm going to actually go ahead. In order to do the build action, I'm going to use bolster. So this is, again, lowering my coin count. So bolster, I pay 1 coin. And I get to increase my either increase my power by 2 or gain 1 combat card. In which case, I'm going to increase my power by 2. And now I get to pay 3 wood to build any one of the buildings. So the buildings are here. We have a mill, an armory, a monument, or a mine. The mill is the one I'm looking at right now. It helps me produce additional resources in whichever tile I end up putting it on. The armory generates power. The monument generates popularity, and the mine allows me to connect between. So any of the tiles that I have here on the board with this tunnel symbol are actually connected. Wherever I put a mine, the mine would also be connected. That is actually kind of loud from here. Let's see if I can control it from here. There we go. That's better. All right. So I've really kind of want to have the mill going here. So I'm going to take the 3 wood off of this tile. And I am going to put the mill onto my... I'm going to go ahead and put it on the oil here so that I can start producing some more upgrades, which are going to be very useful. And my reward for doing the build action is to gain 3 gold back, which is unfortunate. I really want to start spending it so I can get under my gold limit and get my objective done. Since I can't do the second objective because I already have an upgrade card. So now I built my mill. That would be the end of my turn, and we go over to the automation. The automation is moving toward an objective or the factory. And in this case, we do have an objective that's nearby, so is going to move across the river to the objective and take that out of the way. So the movement is done. They gain 3 power and 1 gold. So we're up to 13. It'll be difficult if we end up getting into combat. We have 1 gold there total. And then we're going... now this time we've got an action down at the bottom here. If I had done the recruit action I would get the bonus for the enlist bottom action. So this one down here. The bonus would be underneath here, which would give me a combat card. But because I haven't done the enlist action, I can't take advantage of that. And also, I do not move the star tracker this time, so we do not go up 1 space. And we're back to my turn. All right. It's very tempting to move here, but I also need to start producing again. I really need to get some upgrades going. Produce or move? Produce or move? Well, let's go with a move. So I'm going to move my character across the river over here. We're going toward that objective. I'm going to move my mech over here. Let's start pressing them a little bit more offensively. See how that works out. Again, I don't have any food to do the enlist action. Maybe going to think about producing another worker next turn on top of getting some oil just to try to get that boosted. So that is the end of my turn, and we're back to the automation. It sounds like it's going to get louder again. All right. Automation. If it was the Polish faction, sorry again about the light, the focus here. Polish faction, we would move toward an objective of the factory, but we don't have that. Next option is to move a mech, which we certainly can do. So let's take a look here. The mech closest to, there's only one mech, so it's the closest to the to home base. I'm just going to double check this one because again, this is slightly complicated. So we have to be in the neighborhood of any automata unit. So these squares, hexes are all valid. Is the shortest distance from an enemy combat unit. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We got a tie here. Closest to the factory is next. So this is where we end up moving. So remember, they teleport. So this is where we end up moving the mech. The movement rules are really complicated. Once you get a hang of it, it seems really obvious where it should actually go. You just have to read them a few times to actually get that going. Next, the bonus is a worker and a mech. And then again, if I had taken the enlist action, I would be able to gain a bonus, but I don't currently have that. So we're just going to give him the worker and the mech. And there's a star icon, so we move up the tracker. Only 3 more turns before we switch to the other side of the cards. Back to my turn. I just did my movement action. I can't do move again. I'm going to have to go ahead with produce. Again, this is going to cost me 1 strength to do. We're going to build 1 worker. I need some steel here. I need to start collecting some food too. So we're going to get 1 worker. We are going to get, actually I'm going to put, so the mill will produce 1 oil no matter what, and I'm going to produce 1 steel. I don't have enough oil to pay for an upgrade, so I can't take the upgrade action, and that's the end of my turn. Back to the to the opponent. Again, we have the icon, which means skip this card, so I get to skip this and now move back to my turn. And we are going to move again. I'm going to move my character over here to take this to take that encounter. I will also move this worker over here. I'm going to leave the mech where it is right now. And now, because I have my character on an encounter, we will take the encounter card. And we have a mech in the mist with some troops walking above it. We have conceive a plan with the patrolling troops of the forest. I gain 1 combat card and 1 popularity. Relieve the soldiers of some dead weight. Pay 2 to gain any 3 resources. Or deceive the soldiers and steal their mech. Pay 3 popularity and gain 1 mech. So once again, I'm going to pay 2 to gain any 3 resources. And I'm definitely going to get, let's see, 1 steel, no, 2 steel, and 1 oil. I'm not in the risk of losing these guys, so I'm going to distribute them. If I had a lot of pressure, military pressure, I would want to probably put them closer to my home base, but there's no real need to do that. Let's take away this encounter token. I do not have enough food to do the enlist action. I don't have any food, so we can skip that, and we move on to the opponent's turn. So if the opponent was the Nordic the Nords, they would take that action, but in this case, they're going to move mech instead. So once again, we have this mech is going to move. Any of these spaces are valid, and in this case, right away, I know that it's going to be on the factory. So now we're going to have a fight for the factory at this point. They're as close as they can get to that. Next, they're going to gain 4 power, which is going to put them at maximum. There's no higher they can get, and we're going to move the star icon up. So this is going to get kind of ugly if I have to get into combat with these guys, because they've got a lot of power behind. On my turn now, let us go ahead and do the trade action. I'm going to pay 1 coin. I can gain any 2 resources or 2 popularity. I could really still use some resources. Some of the upgrades would severely help me out right now. Resources, popularity would work toward. I am going to have to boost my popularity somehow. So let's go ahead and do that. Popularity up to 4. I need to get it up to 7 to use this objective token. So let's do that. And then I will use the 3 steel to deploy another mech. So I have my powers I can pick are Seaworthy is to use the lakes. I can move 2 from lakes and retreat onto adjacent lakes. Artillery is if before combat I can pay 1 power and the opponent gets -2 power, or +1 hex movement for my characters. So I'm actually going to do that one because I really need to get this guy around a lot to get to these objective markers. So I'm going to go ahead and put my mech down over here. And that no bonus for that one, so that'll be the end of my turn. And now we move on to the opponent. We move a mech. Oops. Then we gain a mech and 2 power, which they can't, and we move the star icon up 1. So first off, we are moving a mech. The mech is the closest to the home, so is this one. It's going to move here because it is the nearest distance to an enemy combat unit. And then we are going to gain a mech and 2 power, which they can't gain. And then we move their star tracker up. I'm going to move. Oh, it stopped. So 2 more turns, and they switch to the other side. That's scary. I'm wondering if I can potentially take these guys on combat. So they have 0. So I have a combat card. It's a +5 combat card. They start off with 0, and they haven't drawn any combat cards. So it might bode well for me to try to start fighting them. So at least so we can get an example of what combat looks like. So I'm going to choose the move action, and I'm going to move first my character to now can move 2 hexes to this one, so we can do the encounter, and I am going to move my mech into this space, which will trigger combat. So at this point, I get to choose how much power I'm willing to contribute, and the card that if I'm going to contribute any cards to my combat. So I'm going to use 2 power, and I'm going to use my 5 power combat card that I gained from the start of the game, and use that to try to beat this in combat. How it's determined? So I've got a total of 7 going in. How we determine how we win with the opponent is I'm going to draw an automation card. So here's the last one, by the way, just to see what that looks like. This is not the one that I draw. There's a track down the bottom here. that dictates how much power they're going to play. So covering it, it's hard to do this in reverse. For 0 to 7, if their power is 0 to 7, they commit 0. 8 to 13, they commit 0. 14 plus, they commit 0, but they commit 1 combat card. So this will give you an example. This will give you the amount of combat of power that they are going to commit to. What is it? Like, keep moving. Commit to the combat. If I win, I would get 1 resource of my choice. So let's see. Let's draw a new card, and we're going to see what the opponent is doing. Lucky for me, 1 combat card. At 14, they're going to commit 1 power and 1 combat card. They have 1 power. They do not have a combat card. So I end up winning combat. This means that they are going to send their mech directly back to the home base. I believe. Let me double check that. Oh no, to the mat. It's gone. And I determine the resources, so I get to grab a resource. I drop it directly in that tile. What do I really need right now? I would really like to get... Question. I have enough... if I produced, I would have enough oil to do an upgrade no matter what. Maybe use some extra wood? Or steel. Steel is probably a good idea. I need to get more of my mechs out. So we find some steel here. Or is it of the type? Oh yeah, place. Yeah, sorry, it's the resource of the type, which happily ends up being steel anyway. So I'm good there. Now that the combat movement is... I won my first combat, so I get to put a star on the board. I get to do this twice. So if I win another combat, I get to put another star, but now we got our first star. So slightly ahead, just slightly ahead of the opponent. And now let's take a look at the encounter. Again, it's starting to get loud. Turning the volume down, it's getting louder and louder. Alright, and we take a look at our encounter card. And we have got a mech coming out of a forest and some people coming up to it, maybe a couple of soldiers. And it says, it's an orchard. Pick fruit for the lady and keep a few for yourself. Gain 2 food and 1 popularity. Pay the lady to supply your empire with her apples. Pay 2 to gain 1 worker and 3 food. And banish the lady from her family's land. Pay 2 popularity to build 1 structure. Man, that's kind of evil. I'm actually going to take the pay 2 to gain 1 worker and 3 food. That sounds pretty good to me. Because I still need to get my money down if I want to get this pay 2. I gain 3 food. So I'm just going to put them up here. And 1 worker. So the more workers I have on a tile, too, the more they produce. So let's get this steel going here. All right. And now I have enough food to actually enlist. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to pay the 3 food to take the enlist action. Now let's see, which one do I want? What's the bonuses here are... well, I'm going to take the one that gives me popularity, because hopefully I can gain that bonus more frequently. And I'm immediately going to use the gain 2 popularity bonus. So once I use the enlist action, I get to pay put down on one of these instant bonuses. So I instantly get to move my popularity up 2. So I'm at 6. 1 more to hit this card. And then I just need to find a way to dump some money. And that was the end of my turn. That's the longest one we have. Hello, the games teacher. Now the opponent's turn. All right, so if we were playing the Highlanders, we would take an action toward the factory or to an encounter, but we're not. So next is to move a worker, and then if we were playing Japan, we would get to move to deploy a mech, but we're not. We'll gain a worker and a gold for the opponent, and we move the Star Tracker up one. So let's move the worker. We'll gain one and gain some gold. So the closest worker is currently on home base. The next place to go would likely be here. This is closest in reading order. Gain an additional worker and one gold. And note again, there is an icon for if I had the enlistment bonus for gold, but I do not, so I don't get to use it. But now we've reached the point in the popularity. On the automation track where we now get to switch to the second phase for the opponent. So I get to shuffle the deck back in again. He gains a star immediately, so we're going to add that right up here, so we know when 7 are down. And then we switch to the opposite sides of the cards. So remember, we saw that we had the red sides that we haven't been using, so now we're going to use those, and they're going to be a bit more aggressive. So we got that set up, and now let's head back to my turn. Just used move, so I'm not going to be able to do that again. I don't have really enough resources to do anything for the moment, so I would need to probably need to produce again. No wood, just enough oil. I'll just get enough oil to upgrade. So let's go ahead with the produce. But now, because of the workers that I've generated, my cost is not only 1 power, but also 1 popularity. I guess I'm working a little too hard. So we drop 1 power and 1 popularity in order to produce. I'm going to have to bump that popularity back up again. And I get to choose 2 tiles to produce on. Well, no matter what, because my mill's out there, I'm going to be producing. So let me drop these down so you can see them a little bit better. The workers in this game are actually very amusing. These ones all have sort of like elf caps on, and all of the Crimean ones have what look like fur caps on, like tall fur caps. So I got my extra oil just for having the mill on there. I'm probably not going to choose the mill to produce on. I am going to produce on the tile with the steel, so I'll get 2 there. So I will be able to build an additional mech later. Now, do I want a worker or do I want some wood? Let's go ahead and produce another worker. See about getting that achievement star for having all my workers out. So that's the top half action. I'm now going to take my bottom half action. We're going to pay the 3 oil. And we're going to choose an upgrade. I'm going to take the upgrade for movement. So we're going to move 3 units now instead of 2. So that's going to be beneficial, especially since the opponent's starting to get really close and going to be engaging in combat. And I'm going to put the upgrade onto paying for upgrades. So now it'll cost 2 oil instead of 3. And my reward for taking the upgrade action is to gain 2 coins. And I'm trying to spend more money, but it's just not happening. I keep getting money back. And that'll be the end of my turn. And now we go on to the opponent. So now we're reading the red side. And lucky for me, because of the difficulty level I am playing with, the first icon is the skip this card icon. Apologies for the focus. So I don't have to follow along with this card. So that'll go in the discard pile. And right back to my turn. I haven't really thought about what I was planning to do right away. Moving is tempting, but this is going to start to get me into more and more combat situations, and I am desperately low on the power track right at the moment. It's especially considering that they're right at the end here, and at least they don't have any combat cards. May have to start bolstering a little bit, especially if I can get my hands on some wood. So let's start with the trade action. I'm going to pay my 1 coin, and I'm going to gain. I wish I had less money. I could get enough popularity to finish my objective card here. Yeah. Let's go ahead with the popularity. Let's pump that popularity track up. So now I'm at 7. That meets my objective card. So if I can get my money down to less than two coins, then I've met my objective. So my popularity is up 2. I'm going to pay the 3 steel to deploy another mech, and I'm definitely going to need the artillery one because it's going to help out significantly with the combat. I can pay 1 power to give my opponent -2. Fingers crossed that when we do get into combat, that'll allow me to actually do a little bit more damage. Got to get him pretty close here, so I'm just going to put this mech right here. Couple of mechs the only benefit that having more than 1 mech in a tile will have is that I could play multiple combat cards, and I currently don't have any. So at some point, I'm going to need to grab a few more. And that'll mark the end of my turn, and then we go back to the opponent. Right, this one we have to do. If we were playing the German faction, we would take this action, but we are not. So the next one is to move a character toward the factory or an objective. I believe at this point, I believe that we have to prioritize the factory. Yeah, so we have to prioritize the factory. It is in the neighborhood, so the character will move immediately to the factory. We'll resolve that in just a second. They'll gain 1 combat card, unfortunately, so this gets added secretly, and 2 coins to their total. And we move the tracker up 1, and unfortunately I do not have the enlistment bonus for gold, so I don't gain anything. Now, the opponent's character has landed on the factory. There are 3 factory cards here. There's 1 higher than the 2 players, so there's myself and the AI, and then 1 extra card. These provide powerful bonuses, extra actions for me, but for the purposes of this game, all that happens here is they take 1 of those cards. And now my choice has been reduced from 3 cards to 2 cards. And now I have to get rid of both the character. I have to get rid of both the character and the mech from the location. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to get a bonus for the factory. And now we are back to my turn. Very tempted to produce here, despite the drop in power and popularity, just so I can gain another star for putting all my workers out. I also don't have a lot of resources out there. I could also make a few movements, but I suspect that I'm going to get into combat again shortly, and that might be worthwhile to bolster Slig. A lot of options. I'm going to start with my move action. I'm going to see about getting another encounter. So I'm going to move my character 2 spaces, thanks to speed. So we're going to get the encounter there. This mech I'm going to move over here. And I am going to move this worker down here. So now I get to do the encounter. We have what looks like some sort of pub scene. It says, arm wrestle a brute at the local tavern, gain 2 power and 1 popularity. Buy everyone a round of drinks, pay 2 to gain 3 popularity, and pay to start a fight and sneak away with the keys to the tavern, gain 2 popularity and build 1 structure. What's great about this one, if I pay 2 and gain 3 popularity, that is enough to actually finish off my objective. So I will pay 2. I am now down to 2 coins. I have at least 4 workers, and my popularity is now up to 9, which meets my objective card. So have $2 or less, at least 4 workers, and 7 popularity. So I have rolled my sleeves up for the common man, and I get to put my star on the objective card, which is this one up right here. So now I am 2 stars up. Hopefully more soon. So I cannot pay. So that was my movement completed. I don't have enough food to pay for an enlistment. So we move on to the opponent's turn. Here we have. If the opponent was the Nords, they would move a worker, but they are not. Otherwise, it's a move toward the factory or an encounter. Because they have a factory card, we would end up moving the character over to this encounter over here, which is in the neighborhood. So that is a valid movement. So they would come here and remove the encounter. Next, they gain 3 power, which would bring them up to full. Gain another worker. And if I had the enlistment bonuses for combat cards, I would gain one of those, but I don't. And we move up the AI's tracker to the next phase. And now we're back to my turn. Luckily, now I can focus less on bringing up my popularity and more on bolstering my forces. Let's start with a production action. So I'm still producing on 2. My cost is 1 power, so I'm down at 0, and 1 popularity. And I get to choose 2 tiles in which to produce on. I get to produce, so I will produce on the oil tile so I can gain another upgrade because of the mill and the worker there. I now will also produce on the steel tile so I can get all my mechs out. Oh, if I produced on the worker tile, I'd have all my workers out. I'd gain that star, but I really need to start working on bolstering more strength. So that's my production. I will use the upgrade. Let's use that to bolster to increase the amount of power I gain from my bolstering. And let us reduce the cost of paying for buildings. So I don't have to have as much wood in order to do that. So that's going to cost me 2 oil, which I'll take off the board. And I should have enough steel soon to build another mech. I gain 2 coins for having done my upgrade action. And now we move on to the opponent. Oh boy. All right. So the first there, I hope it's visible, is a combat movement. Is either the character or a mech will move in order to, and as long as they've got at least 5 power, and they do, because they've got the maximum amount of power that you can have. So they're going to look to perform a combat movement. And I believe, so the unit that moves is the closest to the automata's base. It's going to be this mech here. is in the neighborhood of any automata unit where it contains an enemy combat unit. So we are going to get dropped right here. And I have 0 power and 0 cards. So this is going to be very interesting. So we're going to resolve the combat. I can't commit any power. I can't even reduce their power. So I'm at 0. Let's see if what the opponent's going to end up with. So based on the card here, 14 plus, they're going to use 7 power, so the maximum that you can use, and use 1 combat card, which would add 2 to that. So they're going to have 9 total for their combat, which definitely beats my 0. Sorry, I'm just going to double check here what exactly. I've never actually lost combat. So I take both of my units and I move them back to my home base. And that's about it. Next, the opponent will gain a mech and 1 gold, and then we move the tracker up 1 step. Right, back to my turn. Now I need to start getting my power up, because if they're this close to my lands, they're going to start moving in to try to take my workers out and start taking my resources. They're a lot more aggressive this time than they were last time. So let us move over to the bolster action. I pay 1 coin. I'm going to increase my power by 3. And I can't take the build action. I don't have enough wood for it. So that's all I'm going to be able to do right now. But I'll at least be able to come back to a couple more actions, be able to produce, hopefully get enough wood going, and move some of my workers into spaces to start actually producing some more power for me. Hopefully something good soon. Back to the opponent. So we've got, if we were the Polish faction, we would move to an encounter or the factory, but otherwise we're moving a worker. So on the table, our closest worker is here. So we have a space here that's adjacent to 2, a space here that's adjacent to 2. In reading order, I believe next we go to reading order. So actually, this one's the closest to the factory anyway, so this would be the one that we go to. Next, if they are the Crimean faction, which they are, they gain 1 gold, and they will gain 1 combat card. Crap. And another mech. So now all their mechs are out, and if I had the enlistment bonus for gold, I would gain that now. I don't, and we move the tracker up 1 more space. Now, note on the tracker that the spaces that we have coming up have gold stars on them. That means they're going to start adding additional stars to the count, starting to bring the count down to the end game. So I'm going to have to step things up a little bit now. All right, back to my turn. So we've just bolstered, so we have a little bit of strength going for us. I'm going to need to produce... Actually, first I'm going to end up moving some of my workers around here. So let's take the move action. I'm going to move my character over here to take another encounter. I'm going to move one of my... I'm going to need the steel, so I'm going to move 1 worker over to wood. And again, I desperately want to keep these mechs from going after my workers, so I'm going to move this mech over here so that they'll target the mech first instead of starting to wipe my workers off the land. I also think, I'm going to have to double check this one, but I do believe that the automata gets at least 1 star for having 1 combat. But I will double check that in a second. So I have the encounter here, so I'm going to remove the token. Interesting here, we got a farm scene where they're using a bear as a plow. We have spend a day planting crops at a farm to earn some goodwill, gain 2 food and 1 popularity, pay 2 to gain 1 worker and any 2 resources, dislodge a stubborn plow and earn the favor of the farmers, or salt the earth and force the farmers to enlist, pay 2 popularity to enlist 1 recruit. I am going to choose the second option, pay 2 to gain 1 worker and any 2 resources. For the very simple reason that paying 2, so I only have 1 coin left. Gaining 1 extra worker means that I have all my workers now on the board. And you are also going to work this field over here. So therefore, I get to put my star here on all 8 workers. And 2 resources of my choice. Let us put some wood down. So I can build me some more structures. So that's the end of my movement. I don't have enough food to purchase to go with the enlistment action, so that's the end of my turn. And let's move on to the AI. Card is ignored. The symbol's up here for the difficulty level I'm playing with. So we move on back to my turn. Goodness. Now I have enough wood. I don't really need to go with the the produce action. I'm going to go with my bolster action once again, which means losing a coin. Let's go with the 3 power update. And now I get to pay 2 wood to build one of my buildings. And right now I think the armory would be the best one to do. I'm going to have to start taking the trade action, though. Just place the armory up here. When I take the trade action, I now also gain 1 power, which would be very useful. And because I've done the build action, I get 3 coins back. And that would be the end of my turn. Now over to the AI. Oh, fairly simple card. We move a worker, gain 2 power and gain a worker. And I would gain 1 popularity because I do have the popularity enlistment action, and we do move the AI's tracker up 1 space. So moving a worker, we have a worker on the home base. The next space would definitely be here. There's the most adjacent units, and it's the closest to the factory. We gain, this is the last worker for the opponent. I've gained my, I haven't gained my popularity. I am up to 9. And we move the tracker over, so now we have an extra star on the board for the AI. Let me double check once quickly. I believe the winning a combat does get the I do believe that they gain a star. Yes. Sorry. So they do gain a star for the combat. And they did actually gain a star for reaching the end of the power track. So we're now 3 to 4. So I need to start boosting things up a little bit. So we move on to the track. They're going to gain another one in 2 turns as long as things keep up. So back to my turn. I've just bolstered, so I have a little bit more power. I'm still not quite in a position where I'm going to start going into combat, though. The next thing I'm going to end up doing is likely produce. I do need to produce, but that will end up losing me. Oh, and I moved my worker off the oil field, so I'm not going to be able to directly gain any oil here, which I would be using for upgrades. So I'm going to take the trade action instead. That'll cost me 1 coin, which luckily I received a few of. I will use that to gain 1 steel and 1 oil. And because I built my armory, I can now move my power up. And then I will also use this 3 steel to purchase my last mech, giving me the seaworthy achievement and power. And I've placed all 4 mechs on the board, so I get to put a new star. And that would be the end of my turn. So we move on to the AI. If they were the Nords, they would move a worker. Otherwise, they're going to move a mech, not a combat move. Then they're going to gain a combat card, a coin, and a mech, which they can't. And if I had the upgrade if I had the recruitment for power, I would gain power, but I don't. And we move the AI's tracker up. So we are moving a combat unit, a non-attacking move. So the closest one to home base is this one, right here. Oh, is that the character? No, it's a mech. In the neighborhood of any unit, no enemy unit, the shortest distance to any enemy combat unit. So the one that is this one right here, because it is the shortest distance from this unit. It's in the neighborhood of this unit. Because this one's too far away. It's 2 away, 3 away. This one's actually 2 away. And closer to the factory would actually technically be this one. Sorry. So yeah, so it's in the neighborhood of a combat unit. It is 2 away from one of my combat units. It's closer to the factory, and even in reading order, whoops, slides across the board. Even in reading order, it would be closest. So the movement's done. They gain a combat card, which is not good. A coin and a mech, but they don't. They have no more to gain. And that's it. We move the tracker up. And now it is back to my turn. If I do the produce action, I will have the ability to do another upgrade. Although if I do the bolster action, I can gain some cards. But I want to get some wood. If I'm going to do the bolster action, I'm going to want to build another structure. So let's go ahead and pay 1 power, 1 popularity, and 1 coin in order to produce now, because I've got all my workers out. And I'm still only doing 2 tiles. I still have an upgrade. That's the next upgrade. That's definitely the next upgrade. So I'm going to end up with 2 wood. Actually, might not be the next upgrade. I'm going to end up with 2 wood, 1 oil, no matter what. And you know what? Let's go with the 3 that are on the farm, so I can enlist the next time I move. So we've got food, we've got wood. The oil is going to immediately be used to pay for an upgrade. Actually, yeah. So I'm going to use that on produce. I'll be able to produce on 3 tiles, and now the cost to build buildings is now reduced to 1 wood. I did the upgrade action, so I gained 2 coins, and that will be the end of my turn. We move over to the AI. Move 1 worker, gain 4 power, crap, and then if I had the recruitment action for power, I would be able to use it, but I can't. So we have a worker here. The valid locations. This one's a little in the neighborhood of any automata. So the most automata units. We got 2 here and 2 here. So it has to be one of these 2 spaces, and it would then be closest to the factory first, which will be this one. I need to start spreading my workers out too, because there's bonuses at the end for the number of territories you control. So yeah, they gain 4 power, and we increase the star tracker, so they've got another star on the track now. 1 more, and so it's 2 more their turns where we move forward, and that's 6. So unless I can get to 6 first, the AI is going to hit there first. I'm tempted to take the move action and see if and tip my hand toward combat, but I have no combat cards. All right, let's start with the bolster action. Let's pump my power up to 9 before we do any kind of movement. Oh, I do have to pay 1 coin for that. And then I'm going to use 1 of the wood to purchase my monument, which I'm going to place here. The next time I do bolster, I will also gain popularity. I gain 3 coins for having built the monument. If I build a mine, I get another star. So hopefully I can come back, get a combat, win a combat, get another star. Fingers crossed. That's what we're hoping. So now to the AI. Excellent. Good. Skip this one. You don't have to do this one. So back to my turn. Now, do we go into combat? So let's go ahead and take the move action. I'm going to move 1 mech into combat. See how that goes. I'm going to move 1 worker over here. I need to start taking on some additional territory here. And 1 worker over here. All right. Fingers crossed. Let's see how this goes. So first thing, I'm going to pay 1 power. The opponent will get -2. And then just to win this combat, I'm going to use all of my power. So I have 7 and no combat cards. So they have whatever they've got is -2. So let's draw the card and see what we get. Oh boy. I had to draw this one. Anything other than under 14, they would have used 1 power, but at 14 or above, they use 7. So he's at third. Oh no, sorry. The -2 happens right now, so he's actually only going to use 1. Thank goodness. and no combat cards. So I basically wasted my 7 here. So I win. That goes back on the card. I place another star for my 1 combat, and I gain 1 resource is a steal, so now I'm in control of this territory for the moment. And now I will pay 3 food to gain 1 recruitment upgrade. And I'm going to use the power one, and I'm immediately going to boost my power up 2 as a bonus. So now if the AI card has the power bonus, I gain that. And now we're on to the AI's turn. Oh boy. All right. We have a combat move. First, if the power is at least 1, which it is, so that's what they're going to take. So let's take a look at what we got as a combat move. It is a whoever is closest to the base, so it is this unit that's going in for the combat move. It is going to be this one again, hotly contested area, and that was going to result in another combat. No point in using artillery. It's not going to put him under a tier, and you can still use all 7 if you really want it. I am going to commit all of my power, so 3, to try to maintain the square. The enemy is going with 7. So from 8 to 13, they commit 7 to the combat, and then whatever is on the card, on 1 combat card, which is a 3, so that's a total of 10. That's a win for him. And the resources go away. And they put their last star in for another 1 combat, and that immediately ends the game. So I'm 1 star down. Unfortunately, I believe I do complete the rest of this card, though. Let's just double check here. I don't see anything. So according to this, the game ends immediately, and now we move to scoring. So let's go through. All right, so we gain a number of coins based off of our popularity track and how many stars we have and some other factors. So in the case, so let's consolidate the coins that the AI here has. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 total. Nice round number. And I have 2. Control every 2 resources. Okay, so let's start with mine. Every star on the triumph track, I gain 4 coins. So I have 5, I gain 20 coins. Next, each territory controlled, I control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 territories. I gain 3 coins for each, so I gain 21 coins. Every 2 resources, I have 0, so nothing there. Then structure bonuses. this tile here. This is a random. Oh, you can't see it here. Let me switch to right. There we go. This tile here is randomly chosen from a pile. It currently shows what kind of bonus you get for building structures next to particular types of tiles. So in this case, building structures next to tiles that have objective icons on them. So on the board currently, I have there's an objective icon right here. So I have my monument, my mill, and my armory all adjacent to a tile. So I have 3 buildings. I gain 4 coins. And this isn't looking very good, actually, because I now have a total of 47. And now I have to calculate the score for the opponent, and the place he's going to kick my butt is in control of territory, which is basically the only other one that he can have. So let's start with the number of stars. We have the 6 on the board, 4 each. So he gains 24 for that. And then for every territory controlled, it gains 3. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And the factory counts as 3. So that is 14. That is a total of 42 coins, which blows my total out of the water. And he doesn't collect resources, and he also doesn't build. So that's basically what the other coins that he got. So the final score is let's see here, 76 to 47. So not a very successful run compared to my last one. My last one, I actually won. The big difference here is I focused very much on my objective. I think that was a mistake. I think I should have used the objective as if I happen to run into it, great. I focused way too hard on trying to complete the objective card instead of. I think the music just switched to something else here. Yes, aggressive. I went from quiet, sad war music to aggressive, modern, hybrid, orchestral. Definitely a theme change there. So yeah, focusing entirely on my objective was a mistake. Instead of attempting to spread my territory and gain more control, which is something I did in the last one. Whoops, I am missing a point. It does not that it makes a difference. It literally just brings me up to a slightly more respectable 50. Focusing instead, like having the objective be great. I completed the objective. That's a great bonus. Where last time when I won, I had all 6 upgrades, all 4. I had all 6 upgrades, all 4 mechs out, all 4 buildings. I had only 1 upgrade left. I had all 8 workers out. I also had 2 combat stars to end it, and I ended it first. So yeah, deciding to focus on my objective was completely a wrong idea. But anyway, I thoroughly enjoy playing this game, both solo and with people. If you haven't had a chance to pick this up, I highly recommend it. It's a game that's accessible to everybody, especially people who will take one look at it and think it's very risk-like. There were literally 3 or 4 combats in the entire. Like there were 4 combats in the entire game. That was it. And you're more focused on your building and your territory control. Like I was mentioning, moving my mechs into particular areas was more of a deterrent than it was an active aggression. So highly recommend it. Very different, lots of style. The artwork is fantastic. The components are fantastic. Everything about this game is spectacular. Look for I should have a review up of this on theboardgamer.com next week. But you see it, absolutely recommended. Pick it up. But definitely pick up the expansion pack. The Invaders from Afar. There's another one coming out soon. I'm not entirely sure what the content is. I haven't seen it yet, but definitely pick up the main expansion pack. It rounds out the game substantially. And once again, I can't say enough about the broken token insert. Absolutely changed my setup, the setup time today. So thanks a lot for joining me tonight. Once again, as I mentioned, all my content's up on theboardgamer.com. And the review of Dark Souls, the board game, will be out tomorrow. Tragic review there, but honest. So hopefully it won't draw up too much controversy. But have a good night. I'll see you either on Friday or Saturday. We will have game night in Canada. The likelihood is Scythe will hit the table again, and this time with more players. Once we buy more chairs. One of these chairs broke last week after we were done, and now we can only have 3 people on the table. Anyway, see you then, and have a great night.